So I think it's safe to say one of the biggest features that a lot of us want to see in Outriders is the ability to revive ourselves in solo play. So we've got brand new dev comments. We're going to be taking a look at this right here. It says the devs have commented on solo revives and it doesn't make sense. Now, this post eventually leads us to a brand new article right here about how Outriders could really use a self-revive. And hidden within this article are brand new comments from, of course, People Can Fly, Square Enix. So we're going to be diving into that in just a moment. Also, guess what? It might not be your fault that you're dying a lot in Outriders. We've got some interesting discoveries about glitches and bugs you might want to be aware of, and of course, more feedback from the community. So yes, let's do this. We're going to dive in right now. Hey everyone, what's happening? Open World Games here. Hope you're doing good, and let's see what's going on with Outriders now. So let's dive straight into the article. First and foremost, it goes on to say the following: if you've played Outriders by yourself, you've no doubt encountered the absent revive. You're doing your thing, turning baddies into bloody pulp with space magic. All of a sudden, you're gunned down in one shot and kicked back, generally to right before the fight that took you out. All the enemies you killed come back too. It's frustrating, but it's also how the game is designed. Don't ask me why you have no solo revives, by the way. They say this, but in cooperative mode, you can revive yourself. Like most co-op games, you have teammates who can bring you back from the dead by holding square or X or whatever, but that's not all. Once per battle, in co-op play, you can also revive yourself in the same way. Now, if anything, I think this should be reversed. Co-op players have two forms of revival, while solo players have zero. What gives? That is the question, and let's get into this further. Finally getting into comments, of course, from People Can Fly and Square Enix here in just a sec. They say this: I'm not even the only person here at Kotaku who thinks this way. Weekend editor Zach Zalenstein told me, I understand the idea behind wanting to slow players down and make them play more carefully, but I also just hate having to restart an entire long mission because the sniper popped me through a wall. Self-revives would allow a bit more wiggle room in hard fights, something this game needs, and considering how good the snipers are tracking you, you need that solo revive. So what's the rub? Why is Outriders designed like this? And we scroll down, finally, here we go. Let's get into the comments from the team. It says the short version, it's about conveying different levels of intensity between the game's solo and multiplayer modes. Now, this is the comment. It says single player is intended to be a bit less intense than multiplayer, and we wanted players to take a different approach to combat. A representative for developer People Can Fly and Square Enix told me in email, we like presenting combat arenas as a sort of combat puzzle for players to solve. If we were to introduce self-revives in single player, it would allow players to use that mechanic to power through fights without having to really think about it, whereas we wanted them to stop and consider the fight, the enemy composition, their build and skill setup, and potentially make a few runs at it. Honestly, you know, they need like a checkpoint system, in my opinion, especially with solo. If you make your way to the boss in a expedition, I think that should checkpoint you when you die at least one time or something like that. Give players a chance. Now, furthermore, the article goes on to say this: revives were originally part of the game, but People Can Fly learned through iteration that the mechanic was essential for the game's often hectic co-op battles. Well, battles aren't just hectic, in my opinion, in co-op. Pretty hectic in single player too. To say this, we didn't have self-revives to begin with, but in playtesting we found that because of the intensity of the action, players often weren't able to help their teammates in time because they're under a lot of pressure and too busy fighting, the Square representative wrote. We didn't want to reduce the intensity of the combat, so the limited amount of self-revives were put in place to soften that slightly. And I do honestly like so far how it works currently in co-op. You know, you do get that one self-revive. You can hold off with that until a teammate, you can basically like store it in a way until a teammate can get to you. But with how it works currently in solo play, it's completely unforgiving, and I definitely do think they need to change this for sure. Now, if we go back to the actual Reddit post that brought this up, and it has tons of interaction on it, which means you guys are really thinking about this one. Let's go to that. This comes from Bass Stabs. And if we scroll down, he says this. Now, let me explain why I think this excuse is illogical and makes no sense within the context of the game as it currently exists. If combat arenas are puzzles, then this should apply to multiplayer too. If players are dying and can't be reached by their teammates to be picked up by them, then that suggests the squad is not solving the puzzle properly as a team. Therefore, they shouldn't be able to power through fights just by getting a few free self-revives if that's what your goal is to avoid. The distinction between co-op and single player is artificial here. Why should co-op gameplay be a mindless action game where you don't need to consider the fight, the enemy composition, their build, and skill setup, and potentially make a few runs at it, but single player a puzzle where you do have to? So yeah, that's such a good point. There's no distinguishing between co-op and single player when it comes to actual gameplay mechanics and handling the arena, in my opinion. Now it says, if combat arenas are puzzles, then why are we punished with a loss of world tier XP when we die? If you want players to solve a puzzle, then you'll give them freedom to experiment with different approaches, builds, and tactics and try to solve that puzzle. By docking people's world tier experience every time they die, players are incentivized to find a single cheese strategy that works for the majority of encounters and abuse it so that they don't lose hard-earned XP. Yeah, honestly, first time I played Outriders through, I just played it for the story and enjoyed it and really didn't do the farming stuff, but I get where you are coming from. So yeah, I think this definitely needs to be adjusted, and their response here, I think it needs to they need to readjust also, in my opinion, with how they respond to the community with the solo revives, because this is a big requested feature from the community, and we need something for solo players going forward. I'm not too sure if this is a way of discouraging players to play solo. That's another take on this whole situation that could also be possible, that they want to say, hey, if you play single player, you don't get any revives, but if you jump on co-op, which is where we want you to be, then you will get the revive and then revives from teammates on top of that. So that's honestly kind of what I'm thinking is actually happening here, and it's definitely interesting. Now, this is a fascinating post for sure. If we take a look at this one right here, it comes from View Perspective 49. It says, it might not be your fault if you keep dying. It says the following: there are some seriously weird stuff going on in the game, and it might be broken in a very fundamental level. Keep in mind, these are all done in the same map and same gear. Had a trickster, kept dying almost instantly when I go on expeditions, made a new trickster, power leveled it, and got it to the same challenge tier as the original. That could take some time. It sits better even though it was using the hand-me-downs of my other trickster. Hell, it's on challenge tier 15 now. Now, he switched back to the old trickster, still dying almost instantly. Either the characters imported from the demo are bugged, or there's something broken in the game. And apparently it seems like a thing decided to make this post to raise awareness after I saw this. So it seems like it'd be a thing in the community. I think that's what it's saying. Now, honestly think that something might be broken, and the people that were complaining about how hard the game is might have been victim to this. Well, at least a portion of them. Not bashing People Can Fly, just thought it might be something they might want to take a look at. Yeah, for sure. There's some real oddities with the game, and there's also an official reply here from Square Enix about this, that they are going to be looking in to this. So if we see a reply to the thread, it goes on to say this: if this is real, you should make 2 quick videos of both your tricksters in the same exhibition and same challenge tier, wearing the exact same 8 pieces of gear. It would be more consistent if you fight off everything in an area except one enemy, and then compare how many attacks it takes that last one to kill you. Interesting. And of course, Square Enix says this would actually be very helpful to us. I've triple checked with the teams and nothing has been intentionally changed, buffed, or nerfed in the last 7 days. If someone is able to provide a current one-to-one comparison of this happening today along with their Steam user ID, we'd be much better able to take a look into this. As it is, nothing on our metrics is indicating that anything has changed, bearing in mind that this telemetry spans all players, whereas what is being reported here could be more anecdotal. So yeah, it could also be very rare. That's another thing. Like, this could be a rare glitch that's happening between mods and weapons, something is failing. But let me know, are you guys experiencing any oddities when you are playing Outriders. For myself, I've experienced where some mods just don't work appropriately, like they just stop working. And I'm like, okay. And then I like switch up my weapons back and forth. And that seems to be one of the things that kicks it in, at least for me. Let me know if you guys are also the same way or not. All right, so this is another issue that was highlighted by you guys out in the community. This comes from Too Cold in My House. It says, the amount of time you can be stun locked really needs a cap. And that's really the part here that got my attention, saying it needs a cap. That is absolutely correct, because I've been playing some of these expeditions on higher difficulties, and my god, the amount of times you can get stunned is ridiculous. You just got to keep moving, of course, but even then there's only so much you can do if you get stunned. And I think being stunned in games in general is probably one of the worst mechanics ever. To be completely blunt, and I really want to see this one thing in particular changed with the game going forward. Alright, now it's time for your top comments. Let's do this. This video is not that old, the one that I recently posted. It's only a couple hours old by this time of this video being posted, but let's take a look at what you guys had to see. Here it what had to say, excuse me. You guys responded to this video and said the following. Coca Prowess says, if they're doing any more nerfs, the one that they should be on top of, on the top priority list, needs to be Fat Toxicity Butterfly. Those butterflies are a pain. Cryptic Distortion says, I've noticed the alpha Perforas in Outriders have become much more aggressive since the update, constantly getting slapped to death by multiples of them at once. Yeah, a lot of you guys agree with that one. Dennis says, and in this episode of Breaking Things Even More, I Am Dusky1 says, just want the servers to be fixed. It's still choppy as hell. I get hit once and my guy stutters and can't move, and then I'm just dead. Fix your servers, people can fly. You know, I don't know what part of the world you're in. I'm very curious if anyone else is experiencing server issues and where you are in the world, because I remember I bring that up because People Can Fly did state that I think it was South Africa had the biggest problems with lag and issues. Now, also during my time with this game, so far with the official game, I've had minimal issues with connecting to players thus far. But a lot of my time has also been in single player because I've been trying to avoid that inventory wipe issue, which now has been fixed. But yeah, sound off. Let me know where you're at in the world and if you're having troubles with the servers. But that does it for the comments and this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more Outriders news updates. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you all next time. Take care.